You're listening to WGSN-DB, Going Solo Network, Singles Talk Radio channel, where we take a lighthearted and candid approach to discussions on the journey of relationship loss, divorce, parenting, being single, relationships building, dating, and yes, sex. Join our listeners and begin living your best life.
Welcome to our show, True Secrets of Life. My name is Ana Lennyr, and I am a family relationship and anti-depression expert. And today I'm coming to you with an amazing true secret of life. Today's true secret: our experiences are our inspiration. And to join me in today's show, I do have on the line Jackie Bailey. She's an international conversational coach for kids who is here to show through our experiences and her experiences how they are matched to be our inspiration. Jackie, thank you for coming to the show. How are you today?
Anna, it's delightful to be here. I'm doing great.
So we both had a lot of experiences that have turned into inspiration, that have turned into what we are doing today, right? And you're doing something very, very different than me. You're not dealing with people depressed or teenagers depressed, but nevertheless, your work is absolutely phenomenal. So would you like to tell me what means international coach for kids?
I would love to. Thank you. Yeah, I gave myself that title about a year ago, but I have been teaching young people, kids as young as 10, all the way through college-age youth, on to adults, how to really empower their voice. And when they learn to be confident in the message they have to give, then it empowers them to do so much more with their life. And when they feel that they're being heard and worthy of being heard, it makes a difference in how they feel about themselves, and they're not afraid to speak up. And I think that is what everyone needs the courage to do, is the ability to understand who they are and the courage to speak up and stand up for what they believe.
It's very interesting. It made me think of a lot of my clients that come to me, and they are in relationship for over 2 years, and they said, he never proposed to me. I'm like, did you ask? Did you say that this is what you want? Right? And they're like, no, I can't do that. Why? Why you can't do that? Don't you want to find out before you're wasting another 2 or 5 or 10 years? Mm-hmm. Don't you really want to find out? So how interesting, that having a conversation specifically at the point where it needs to be had, it resolves a tremendous amount of issues.
Yeah. Well, communication is not optional. You have to be able to communicate with people, and the basic way to communicate is through conversation. What's happening with our young people today is they are the first generation being brought up with this device in their hand all the time. And our ability to have face-to-face conversation with people, especially during a pandemic when we were withdrawn from people and actually locked away from people to some degree, it is a lost art now. We just don't know how to talk to people. It used to be, even before the pandemic, I would ask my students to stand in front of another person, another student their age, and face them, and I would time how long they could just look at this person without saying anything. And it really was no more than maybe 15, 20 seconds, and they would just start giggling because it was uncomfortable for them to look people in the eye. And then when they don't know exactly what to say to people, that just deepens the anxiety that comes around conversation skills. So that's what we mainly do, is at least we start our curriculum helping kids to feel more comfortable having conversations with their parents and the people that they know that they're comfortable with, so that they can then branch out and speak with anybody that they need to.
Yeah, and it's very, very interesting because, it even brings up like, social anxiety, all right? So because you're just afraid of talking to people. And it's a lot of times in your mind. It's like, what are they going to think about me? What are they going to say? It doesn't matter. You have no clue how they're going to think about you until you don't open your mouth.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Right? Exactly. It doesn't even matter, It's all in your head. You're just going circles upon circles upon circles in your head. But until you don't actually open your mouth, they don't even know you. It's very, very interesting because when I was young, I studied how some people are very attracted to others, and some people are just very not attracted to others, right? And I found out that there are specific types of people, and I am actually one of them, that the first time when you see them, you're afraid of them, or you don't want to engage in conversation with them because you feel deep down that they're going to tell you some kind of truth that you don't like, right? So it was super funny. It's like, okay, so now I understand why people, are running away from me. They don't want to engage with me because, deep down they're like, oh, they know they're going to get slapped by some kind of truth that I'm saying, right? And how interesting that a couple of decades after, I have this radio show, True Secrets of Life, right, where I tell people these secrets on the radio. But you feel that strength, that power, and you're like, oh God, right? This person is going to hit me. And to bypass that, I started to open my mouth. Very simple, right? So I know that the first sight, nobody likes me. Okay, the first sight, I'm gonna say. So when I open my mouth, I am happy. I am praising people. I am. It's like, oh, how wonderful. It's so nice to meet you. And then they're shocked. It's like, what just happened? I thought that I don't like you.
Yeah.
So I succeeded to bypass that first impression where everybody was running away from me just by opening my mouth, just by working on my conversational skills. Very simple.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
So, there are people like that in the world where, you're afraid of them. There are people, everybody says, you're not afraid of talking to millionaires and billionaires. I'm like, no. They're people very open-minded, and they're not afraid of talking to me, and I'm not afraid of talking to them, right? But at
Right.
some point, a lot of people are afraid of opening their mouth. And exactly like you said, it starts with the children. How interesting. How interesting that it starts with the children being afraid of saying anything wrong. Have you ever had?
Well, I was definitely one of those kids. Yeah.
Gotcha.
I was
this
afraid
is why
to say anything.
Our true secret of life today is our experiences are our inspiration. So tell me more about these kind of situations that you faced when you were young.
Well, I grew up in an abusive home, and I was told, don't tell anyone. Those 3 words, don't tell anyone, literally suppressed me in that I became afraid to speak up. I became afraid to talk to people in social situations because I thought maybe I would tell something I wasn't supposed to tell. And therefore, my personality was stopped. It was stymied. I didn't really know what I had to offer anybody. I wasn't sure who or what I wanted to be. I lived in fear all the time of, when was the next abusive situation going to happen, and it happened frequently. And so that fear of not wanting to speak up was literally ingrained in me because I was told not to tell. And, I felt silenced in many ways, and I believe that we as parents can often silence our children without knowing it. When it used to be that kids were told only speak when you're spoken to, right? Or sit there and be quiet. Yeah. Don't raise your hand or speak out of turn or anything like that. And we sometimes unknowingly silence our kids, and we don't let them understand that there is value in what they have to say and that they're worthy of being heard, even if they say something silly or, out of place or whatever. That's how we learn how to be in relationships. It's how we learn who we are, is through sharing our voice. And so even during the pandemic, I think a lot of our kids were silenced. They were taken out of school. They were taken away from friends and social situations. And my students have told me that even though they were home with their parents, they couldn't express to their parents that they were frustrated or sad or scared because they knew their parents were stressed out. And if they said what they were feeling to the parents, then the parents it would make it worse on them. So to some degree, a lot of our kids were silenced during the pandemic because they really could not or didn't feel like they could express their true feelings. So it happens a lot. Even if you're not necessarily in an abusive situation like I was, we are often silenced in different times of our lives.
Yeah, and even if you only think that the silence happens for an introvert, but the truth that the extrovert is also hiding their own silence through being extrovert, right? So just by being there outgoing and talking to everybody, things that don't even matter, they're hiding in specific type of pain they don't know how to express, or they have to repress it too. They have like two sides. Like that was actually how I was. I was suffering from depression, and nobody ever knew, because all the time I would have been nice and smiling and happy, but that was just a mask, right? Because I realized that no job is going to hire somebody depressed. Very simple, especially in customer service, right? So you have to put up a mask out there to just, hide the fact that you couldn't speak about your pain, you couldn't speak about your anger, you couldn't speak about your frustration. And, it's very interesting, Jackie, that you're mentioning this silencing, because, suicidal kids today, I also feel that they are silent. And they're, the only choice for them to be heard is by committing suicide, right?
Yeah.
So it's very interesting how it starts with something so simple as talk. Tell me why you hurt, right? And then it ends up with escalating into more hurt and pain if the pain is not resolved. So I think that what you are doing is absolutely, absolutely amazing. Guys, you are listening to True Secrets of Life radio show with me, Ana Lennyr, and today's guest, Jackie Bailey. She's an international conversational coach for children. And today's True Secret of Life that we're addressing together is our experiences are our inspiration. So if you haven't had the chance to listen to the first part of the show, please make sure you go to truesecretsoflife.com to listen to this entire show, because this is the base conversation to start to fix everything in life, and not to escalate to heartbreak, anxiety, depression, not escalate out there being silent and being felt misunderstood. This is the basic of it all. So this is how you started, Jackie. You just how did you start it from being repressed totally to speak in your family? How did you became today a conversational coach for kids?
Well, wow. Those were pivotal moments of my life. It started with those 3 words, don't tell anyone. And then as a grown woman, married, mother of 2 small children, the person who was my chronic abuser. There were others who had abused me, but there was one member of my family who was the chronic abuser of me. And when that family member had a child of their own, a little girl, it was then that I went into this emotional turmoil, knowing that there was now a potential victim. living with this person 24/7. And if I remained silent, as I always had, then I'm promoting in some way, at least this is what I was thinking, this furthering of abuse. But to speak out meant risking my marriage. It meant risking my 2 children, because if I wasn't believed, would they take them away from me thinking I was crazy or whatever? And so I had a big choice to make, and suicide was also one of those choices because, as you say, when you become so afraid to say what you need to say, sometimes it's easier to just not say it. And so I was facing that, thinking, well, I could just go to my grave and no one would ever know. I wouldn't have to reveal my shame. But also knowing that my own children would not be kept safe. If I went to my grave with that secret and no one knew to take care of my own children, well, then, you know, they were in danger as well. So I decided that I loved my children more than I hated myself, and I said 3 more words then for the first time when I broke that silence was, I have a secret. I have a secret. And I started to break the silence and let people know that this person should not be around their own child. And when I did that, I began to realize that, hey, you know what, I have something valuable to say. I just saved a life because of 3 words I said. I have a secret. And then later on, as I began going through therapy to heal from this abuse, I was asked a question from the therapist, which is, do you think you could forgive, speaking of this abusive person? And I thought it was actually rather funny because at that point there was no way I could even conceive of the idea of being able to forgive. I was in so much pain at that point. But 10 years later, I uttered, in front of that abusive person, I uttered 3 more magical words, I forgive you. And that was the true beginning of my understanding of value in myself, that my voice could make a difference. Not only had I saved the life of that little girl, but now I had changed the life of my abuser, because when I uttered those 3 words, I allowed him for the first time permission to change his life and to progress, which he had also been repressed from doing for his own reasons. And so when I forgave him, I healed myself, but I also gave him permission to begin the healing process for himself. And that is the beauty of forgiveness. But those 3 words, I forgive you, was where I began to realize my voice needed to be heard. And so I began to share it, my story.
And that's absolutely amazing, because you see, anybody that is an abuser, they have been probably abused in the past.
Absolutely.
And they believe that this is the only way that they're not going to be victims. So this is the only way to survive is to abuse others, right?
Yeah.
So here is, I'm trying to tell everybody in the world through these true secrets of life that we disclose is like, don't play this drama as normal, exactly like it happened to you, right? So don't say to anybody, it's normal to have abuse in the family, right? Don't say it to anyone. And then it came back into your adult life to tell you, no, you should have said something, and you need to fix this sooner or later, because even the abuser is hurt. Okay, this is how it is. Even the abuser has been hurt, and even they need to acknowledge the fact that have been hurt and go through their own healing journey, right? But this can't repeat.
Absolutely.
Generations upon generations of hurt. This cannot repeat. So how amazing that I have the impression, Jackie, that as a young kid, you did not pass this test from the universe. Okay, because you were brainwashed to be silent, but as an adult, I think you did pass the test. This is what you're teaching today, isn't it?
Yes, best I can. Yes, I want kids to understand that they're worth being heard, and that what they have to say is important enough to be said. As you mentioned earlier, kids that take their own lives, I don't have data to really prove what I'm about to say, but I feel in my heart that kids who end up taking their lives, or kids who end up incarcerated for crimes committed, are kids who just did not feel heard. They are kids who didn't recognize the value of their voice and what they had to say, and didn't feel that anyone would listen anyway. And so my mission is to help children to feel the importance of what they had to say. When they're at school, they're given assignments, go research this, come back and give a report to the class. Many times they're being graded on saying something that they don't necessarily believe is true. It's to get a grade. They have to do this report and report back. In our curriculum, our students get to talk about whatever it is they want to. And they talk about what makes them happy. They talk about what frustrates them. They talk about their greatest fears. And it's a safe place in front of their peers to give little speeches or to make comments about what it is in life that makes them happy, sad, mad, whatever it is. And I cannot tell you how powerful that makes them, that someone is listening to how they truly feel. And that's just a little part of what we do. And when they can have the confidence then to take their message into a conversation or on a stage, it makes a big difference in the rest of their life.
Yeah, it does make a big difference, in the rest of their life, because now they don't slip into the trap of nobody hears me. Mm-hmm. So, so it's amazing. So I have heard all kind of good things about children being enrolled in your program from external sources, not from you. We've been spying on you, Jackie. No, just because I think it's really, really important. I don't address this enough in my courses to transform a teenager relationship with their parents, because I have to address the depression part, the anxiety part, the anger part. And there is a module that actually raises, how do you speak to your child? But I think what you're doing is a little bit more than that. It's not about only how the child speaks with their family members. It's how the child speaks to the world. Is that correct, Jackie?
Absolutely, because talking with parents is just the start, right? Because that's why we start our curriculum with conversation. Because the best speakers I've ever seen on stages are those who have a conversational tone when they speak. And they know they do that because they recognize making that personal connection with the audience is the first step toward having an inspirational message to provide to that audience. So learning conversation skills, and I teach them 5 rules of effective conversation, and they learn those. They take those at home, and they practice these skills at home. They practice them at school. I have students tell me, I made 3 new friends this week because I started conversations with them and I wasn't afraid to do that. I've had parents come back to me and say, my kid is talking to me again in more than just grunts or one-word answers, and that makes a completely different dynamic in the family when even just a child is empowered to speak up. But now, since March of this past year, when organizations are learning about what we've been doing with these young people, they've invited my students to come and speak on stages, on summits, and other virtual events. And so since March of this year, we have filled 50 speaking slots on these summits with our students. And they've been able to share their unique keynote, their unique message with the world about whatever they feel is most important that they want to say. And it's so wonderful to give them that opportunity.
Yeah, I would say so. I think that's phenomenal. And you probably are super, super proud of your own students.
Yeah, my buttons are popping.
Exactly. super, super, super proud of your students. And in the second part of our show, we're going to talk about a few of those 5 strategies, if you wish to share with
Sure.
to help out everybody. But before we do that, how should I say? Do you see more and more kids today that are lost into their devices, and this is why they're attracted to you, because you can open them up? Is this what you see?
Yes. A lot of our students are coming from situations where they've spent a lot of time on devices, which, is a problem, but most of the time it's video games. And I know that there's some value to video games.
Yes.
There's a feeling of a competition that you can gain. You get to appreciate skills that you're learning and improvements that you're making. I think those are important things for kids to recognize. But I also feel that what happens is the kids have turned a lot to those games because their parents are on the devices. I mean,
God, goodness, you're not helping here, Jackie.
No, I mean, it is a problem for our kids because these devices can be like drugs. It lights up their brains in particular areas of the brain, just like drugs do, and they can become addictive. What I'm seeing from some of the teenagers is that when they're on social media a lot, that's how they're getting their self-esteem, is through likes and shares and comments from people that they don't even know online. Now, that can be a problem if they're influenced too much by that high that they get by a simple like or a share or a comment. That's not really what your self-esteem is about, because those friends are not really friends. They're just people that are out there in social media, and they could be anybody. But I see a lot of danger, too, in the fact that their parents constantly have a phone in front of them. And so when a child goes to ask the parent a question, the phone comes down for a second, but it goes right back up again. And they're beginning to feel like if my mom asks me how was school while she's sitting there writing a text, she's not really listening to my answer.
Exactly.
So why do I answer her if she's doing it out of a courtesy question anyway? She's not really listening to me because she's doing this text, or she's putting an email out. And the kids have just become very aware that they're not being listened to anyway, so why answer? And so when they come to our courses, we give them opportunity to use their device, which is usually a laptop, to join our virtual meetings, and they get to actually engage with each other. It's very different from a game. It's very different from being at home and not having that conversation happen. It is happening, and they're getting to be engaged there. So we're using the devices for a good way.
We will be right back with you after the break.
Have you ever wondered, what are the secrets to a happy and successful life? Well, Ana Lennyr, family relationship and antidepressant expert, will share with you true secrets of life to help you overcome heartbreak, anxiety, and depression, and to live a life that you deserve and desire. Her philosophy is simple: master the game of life so you'll never be trapped in pain or hurt again. Ana can be heard nationwide on the True Secrets of Life radio show on the My Genre Radio Network at 8 a.m. and again at 3 p.m. To listen to her show, go to TrueSecretsOfLife.com.
Welcome back to the Right Radio Show with me, Ana Lennyr. I'm a family relationship and antidepressant expert, and today we have in the house Ms. Jackie Bailey, international conversation coach for kids. If you guys have not listened to our first part of the show, please make sure you go to TrueSecretsOfLife.com, because we had an amazing run talking about how our experiences are our inspiration. So, Jackie, let's start where we left off about the fact that most children are looking for validation on social media. So a lot of parents come to me and said, "Oh, the danger of social media, and it's really bad to be on social media." I'm like, it's only bad if your child doesn't have a high self-esteem. If your child is looking for validation somewhere else outside the house because you were not able to provide that validation in your house, right? You would not be able to have a conversation with a kid in-house, and here they're trying to have it on Facebook or a stupid post. But otherwise, children that are emotionally balanced, they're never going out there, saying their stories or secrets to strangers. Am I right, JK?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think validation is a good term to use.
Yeah, because, everybody says, oh, social media is so bad. Social media is bad for insecure people. Sorry, but, if you're looking for approval from somebody else, it's really bad, okay? But if you get that approval inside your house, it's very, very good. So now, talking about this, about getting the approval inside your house, you said you have a couple of skills and strategies that you're teaching. Would you like to share a couple of them?
Good. Thank you very much. Yes, we teach the 5 rules of effective conversation, and we take most of that information to create those rules from Dale Carnegie, who wrote a book more than 100 years ago called How to Win Friends and Influence People. And he's been a great mentor of mine. And so when it comes to having conversations, he was my go-to in creating these rules for our students. And both students and parents can use these rules to learn how to be effective when they communicate with people and how to gain confidence and courage to have these important conversations. So the first rule is to address the person you're talking to by name. Okay? So what that does is because Mr. Carnegie will tell us that our own name is the most sweet and important word in any language, meaning that whether we think about it consciously or not, when someone uses our name to address us, we feel acknowledged. We feel valued. We feel validated and loved. And when we can do that for someone else, it only endears them more to us, and they're more willing to listen and engage with us if we are giving them the validation that I acknowledge who you are. And if we don't know their name, then we can use those courtesy titles, Mr., Mrs., ma'am, doctor, whatever the case might be. But the first thing you want to do is find the person's name or use the person's name that you're talking to. So we practice that in class.
I am horrible to this rule of yours. I can never remember the name. I am really horrible doing this first rule. I'm failing every day of my life, okay? I'm sorry. I can never remember names for the heck of me. Okay.
I know it's a tough one when you get older. I'm in the same boat with you. I get it. But the kids, they don't have that excuse. They have better memories than we do. And so when they approach someone at school, rather than just saying, "Hey, what did you bring for lunch?" they'll say, "David, what did you bring for lunch?" Simply by using someone's name, you're helping that person to feel known. And as we've already discussed, a lot of the reasons kids take their own lives or become incarcerated or, commit crimes is because they aren't feeling acknowledged. They aren't feeling heard. Yeah. So if you can do that for someone else, that's a big deal. So by using the person's name when you first address them is rule number 1, and it will go a long way. Okay?
Yeah,
rule number
I'm
2.
failing at this rule of yours. Let's see if the other ones are going to be a little bit better. But,
try it. I tell my students to try it and see if it doesn't make a difference. And every time they come back and they say, oh, my gosh, it made a big difference in our conversation just by using someone's name.
So what I use the name for is to raise attention that I really want to talk to that particular person, all right? So for me, it's not for validating them or for making them heard or just for raising attention, like really, I really want to talk to you, right? But it's very interesting because there are 2 categories of people in the world about this rule of yours. And one of them feels very offended if you don't call their name properly. And the other category of people don't care if what name do you have for them, right? So, for example, if somebody asks me, it's like, what's your name? It doesn't matter, whatever you want to call me, okay? So for me, it doesn't really matter because it's not the name that, I feel validated or I feel, holding on to. But there are people in the world that have suffered from generational rejection, but for them, the name, they really hold on to that. For them, it's very important that you should call me like this and not like that, and it's with a Y and not with an E and all these things, right? And this to me, as an antidepressant expert, this shows insecurity, right? But for them, it shows, oh, no, you're taking away from my identity. That's what it shows for them.
Interesting.
Yeah, very interesting. So maybe that's why I failed to this rule.
Well, I think it helps people. I think when someone uses my name, like imagine yourself being in a crowded shopping mall, and someone behind you starts yelling, "Hey, hey, 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 hey!" Well, 30 people are going to turn around because no one really knows who's talking to who. But if someone behind me said, "Jackie," now before I even turn around, I already have a feeling of security because I'm going to turn around and I'm going to find somebody that I know. And it already gives me a sense of happiness or safety. So no matter who it is,
or somebody that's
knows
talking
me.
you, either or.
It could be. I guess there's always a downside to it. But when you use someone's name, it's a big deal for them, especially in crowds where you could be talking to anybody. But you've taken a moment to use their name, and without consciously thinking about it, it does help someone to feel more valuable to you. So.
Yeah. So how interesting is that? So guys, make sure you don't follow my rule of not doing this. Okay. Address the person by their names. Okay. It's like don't try to not mess it up. Try to figure the right one out because I'm going to mess up enough, and I have to apologize after.
Well, that's another part of it too. Is if someone has a name that is perhaps foreign to you, or maybe it's not simple to pronounce, then by taking time to really try to learn how to pronounce it correctly, that means a great deal to people as well, that you're at least trying to pronounce their name. They already know it might be difficult, and so for someone to take the time to practice it and do it right, that means a lot to people. So that's another part of that.
Yeah, because I'm so bad with names, what I'm trying to learn in each language is like how to say I love you. So instead of using the name, I just say I love you.
Oh, there you go. Nice
you know what I mean? Exactly. That works out too. Okay, so this is number one rule. Address a person by name. Please, guys, don't do like what I do, okay? Please follow Jackie's advice here. Okay? Because this is why we have True Secrets of Life, because I don't know them all. Jackie knows some. All right, so what's rule number 2?
Rule number 2, then, is to make eye contact with the person that you're talking to.
I don't agree with that
all right.
either.
This is where I say that sometimes parents go wrong when they're working on their computer or they're sending a text on their cell phone and they're asking kids questions without actually looking at their children, kids learn that that's not important. But if we continue to pass that on, then we're going to be, a community of people who never look at each other, and they're not saying each other's names. We don't know who people are talking to. We don't know if it's validated for us or if the information has anything to do with us or not. So looking at someone, again, is a way to say, where am I focused? At this very minute, I could be doing a lot of things, but I'm going to look at you, and I'm going to pay attention to you, and I'm going to give you a gift of my time and my attention. Now, for children, that's a big deal. Maybe in the workplace, it's not as important to us, but if we stop to think about how often that doesn't happen, we might begin to actually see that the people who we call our best friends are those who do take the time to actually look at us while they're talking to us. And so that is an effective rule of conversation, is make eye contact with the person, and as much as possible, keep that contact while you're talking to them. I don't know if you've ever been in a conversation with someone where they ask you a question and you're in the process of answering the question they asked, but they're looking beyond you or around you or to the side of you as if they're waiting for someone else to come in that they want to talk to. And in that situation that I've been in, I start thinking, well, this person isn't even listening to me anymore, so why do I keep talking? I could probably start rambling off about a whole bunch of stuff and they wouldn't even notice. And what that does is it makes that person feel smaller. It makes you feel smaller when you're not being listened to. And one of the great indicators that we are being heard is that someone is looking at us. So I teach my kids that after you've addressed someone by name, you look at them and you acknowledge them and you help them to realize that you are focusing on them, you're listening, and that you can really give a gift to someone by letting them know that you're hearing them. That's a big deal.
Yeah, very interesting. I said I'm not agree with it, so here I am debating it. The people who I usually deal with are people very, very hurt. By looking in each other's eyes, they don't know how to protect themselves from more hurt. Eyes are the window of a soul. So the other person is going to be aware of a sadness in you, and you're going to be aware of a sadness inside them, right? So here, if you are hurt, they're going to see that you're hurt, and they're going to immediately get hurt trying to help you. If they are hurt, you're going to try to save them, and you're going to feel really bad. So here is any kind of pain situation, I advise to no eye contact. Now, I'm not saying that everybody in the world is hurt, but this is the people that I deal with, right? So it's an exchange of energy. So your rule is extraordinary, specifically for people who don't have that level of heartbreak, of anxiety, of depression, right? And it's absolutely amazing because you can have a normal conversation face-to-face. But it was very, very interesting that, when I first decided to do this business, to help people out of depression at the request of my mentors, I did not want to do this. Trust me, after you overcome depression, you don't want to have anything to do with people in depression. Guaranteed, 100%. Put your hand on fire on that. Right. So my first videos on Facebook, unconsciously, I couldn't even find the camera of the laptop. So if you look at my old videos that I have my programs into, that I have, I couldn't even look into people's eyes practically, not even on a virtual device, right? Because I didn't want to take their pain away, right? Because I was so much in pain for years, and I didn't want anybody to suffer because of me. So now I knew that if you look eye to eye, you can easily transfer pain. So for the people that are not hurt, you're going to feel the other person's pain. They're going to feel yours. And it's just going to be a really sad day or week for you, So how interesting that I need to combat all of it. Guys, you're listening to True Secrets of Life radio show with me, Ana Lennyr. I'm a family relationship and antidepressant expert, and today we have in the house Jackie. And Jackie Bailey is an international conversation coach for children. And today's True Secrets of Life is our experiences, are our inspiration. So how interesting that we're debating the same rules for conversations. From happy people, how they behave normally, like Jackie says, and from depressed people, like I was 27 years in my life, and what I see from my clients, not normal people. And we have to bring them to normality. So, guys, we're having a lot of fun during the show. So if you haven't listened to the entire show, please make sure we only have 15 more minutes to go. But please make sure you go to truesecretsoflife.com to listen to this entire show. Okay, Jackie, I'm ready for rule number 3. Let's go.
Rule number 3, ask questions. Conversation is not a conversation if it's just somebody making statements to somebody else. That's not a conversation. So asking questions is rule number 3. And here's where some situational differences happen is the right kind of questions. For instance, as I mentioned earlier, when a child comes home from school perhaps and a parent's working on their cell phone and they just say, hey, how was your day? Well, the child by this point has learned that mom really doesn't want to hear how my day is, because the minute I say, well, I got a D on my math test, mom is going to go, you got a D? What? And she's going to flip out of her lid, right? And so the kids have learned that there's certain things I can say. And so when mom says, how was your day? I'm just going to answer, fine. Because I don't want the drama. I don't want the drama that comes with it, right? So the types of questions we ask our children is either going to get the one-word answer or the grunt, or it's going to provide a way for the child to actually think about what you're asking and answer it. And the same goes with parents. So instead of saying, how was your day, what if a parent would ask a child who comes in the door from school to say, what was the best part of your day today? You see how that might invoke a different response, where it may not be based on judgment.
The worst part too. You're going to hear about the worst part too once the first part.
Maybe, but I think you want to start with something happy. You know, what made the child feel great about who they were that day? By learning that simple bit of information, now you know what motivates your child. If they say, "Oh, I got to eat lunch with my best friend," or "I got an A on my writing test," or whatever. You're going to learn those types of things that make your child happy. Now you know what motivates them, which is great information to have if you want to motivate your child to do anything, chores around the house or whatever. And so there's lots of information that you can gain by asking the right types of questions. And that's why rule number 3 is ask questions, but they have to be the right ones.
So it's very interesting you mentioned, that you are learning about your child, what motivates them, because everybody that comes to me and they have children depressed or anxious or they don't have a clue what will ever motivate their children. They're so demotivated that the parents they're shocked to hear that their child wants to be happy. They're shocked.
Yeah.
They're like, what do you mean my child wants to be happy? I'm like, don't you think the child wants to be happy? Don't you think that any human being wants to be happy? Oh, I never realized that. What?
Oh, my gosh. Wow.
Yeah. Right?
Wow.
Because they're like, what do you think they want? All the drama in the world upon them, all the hurt, all the pain, or what do you think they want? They actually want to be happy. They want skills of how to be happy. They don't want to rely on you or take the pain from one to another. So it's absolutely, absolutely amazing, what you're doing, because I think it teaches the parents a lot of things about their own children. Very simple.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, with you knowing a lot about relationships and what makes healthy relationships, think about couples, think about family members who never have a conversation. I mean, what would that relationship eventually devolve into? I mean, absolutely nothing. So conversation is the key to just about everything. You have to have conversations at work. You have conversations at home. You have conversations at school. You have conversations where you shop, where you buy food, anything. And so you've got to have those skills to know how to get information from people. And I tell my students the main objective of having a conversation with anybody is to find their story. Find their story.
Yeah.
So that person is going to share something with you that is significant to them based on the questions that you ask them, and you're going to learn something about that person you didn't know before. So find their story or learn something new about them. And if you can do that with each conversation you have, not only are you going to know that person better, which likely you will enjoy being around them more, you might love them or like them better, but you're also going to help that person to feel that what they share with you matters. And again, you're not only, just by having a conversation, you're improving your own skills, but you're also allowing someone else to have a better experience with you, and they're going to want to have more experiences with you like that. Therefore, you're going to have more friends that are going to be deeper friendships and relationships.
Jackie, I'm getting crazy with find their story. I just had yesterday a publicist that keep pondering on my story until at some point I said, listen, nobody cares about the fact that I've been in depression for 27 years and I've been in depression for 3 generations. Don't you want to talk about how to get out? Really? What do you think? But such a sad story is going to resolve for anybody.
Well, no, because this is where our experiences create our inspiration. Because
I know, but it's true what you're saying, right? But for a person to change their life after depression, you stop pondering on their sad story.
Yeah, I mean, certainly you can ponder too much on the sadness, but everyone has something to say that's going to inspire someone else in another way. And by asking questions and having conversations with people, you learn empathy for others. Because if my students, when I'm teaching them that everyone has a story and everyone has something that they can learn from, now understand the value of every single person on this planet. Whether they like them socially or not, it doesn't matter, but they recognize value in everyone. And if we could all recognize the value that each of us brings to each other, that every single person can inspire us in some way by sharing their experiences with us, the world would be such a remarkable place.
Yeah.
Don't you think?
But don't inspire people like pulling them down into your pain from 3 decades ago.
Well, no, not necessarily.
And yes, you're totally right. We're all learning from each other. And that is what is the amazing value of people in our lives. Because I'm learning from you, you're learning from me, and everybody around us. And it's absolutely amazing. Once we recognize that, we won't need any mentors, any coaches. The whole world becomes our teacher.
Oh,
it's just absolutely amazing. Yeah, it's just absolutely amazing. So we have a couple of minutes to the end, and we're going to keep on talking forever. That's why I said a couple of these techniques and skills, because people can always go to your program and sign up their children there, or even themselves, because I think some of us we need a lot more education. Sorry. Okay. So
we do have programs for adults.
Yes, I do. But in a few minutes, tell us how to reach you, what you're up to. We have a couple more minutes left. Go ahead.
Yes, we actually have curriculum for adults as well. We have 6-week courses for high schoolers, those that are college bound, and adults. that will help you discover your unique story, that will help you get it out on a stage or in a book, podcast, wherever. Our other programs for kids begin at the grade 4 level or age 10, and we have 12 units of curriculum. So a child who starts with us could actually stay with us for about 3 years. And by the time they come out, they've spoken on stages, they're part of a book, and they're ready to face life knowing who they are and knowing what they have to say. You can find us at speakfeedlead.org. That is our nonprofit, the Speak Feed Lead Project. You can also find me and connections to that website and everything else about me at JackieBailey360.com, JackieBailey360.com.
From every podcast or radio show, we're going to have on our website also on truesecretsoflife.com, we're going to have all this information for people just in case they're driving right now. But, guys, we have 2 minutes to the end of the show. Please make sure you take this opportunity to turn around a child from their childhood into how they can talk properly with people. Because a lot of times this depression happens because you're unheard for a long period of time. So, Jackie, we have 1 more minute. What would you like our audience to know?
Well, everyone listening needs to understand that something you've been through, an experience you've had, a trauma that you've experienced, everything you've been through is your unique story. It's your unique message. And by sharing it in some way, you're going to inspire the lives of many, many people. And so whatever it takes for you to feel ready to share your story, work through that process. We can help you with our programs, but work through that process any way you can, because your experiences are going to be what inspires the life of other people.
Thank you, Jackie, for coming to our show. Please make sure that you go to speakfeedlead.org to join Jackie's programs, where you're going to learn a lot about conversations with your children and with other adults. And don't forget, our experiences are our inspiration. Make sure you visit truesecretsoflife.com too to listen to this entire radio show. This was a blast, Jackie. Thank you for coming in.
You're listening to WGSN-DB, Going Solo Network, Singles Talk Radio Channel, where we take a lighthearted and candid approach to discussions on the journey of relationship loss, divorce, parenting, being single, relationships building, dating, and yes, sex. Join our listeners and begin living your best life.